my little talk now is about jobs, the future, employment in the renewables and climate change sector. Okay, maybe some of you feel like, yeah, this is really neat and nice, and I hear about it, but the fact that it matters after I graduate, I got to get a real job that's going to pay the bills, maybe with some large corporate that has like a good pension policy, and nice steady growth and so forth. Maybe something like Chevron or Pacific Gas and Electric. Those are nice companies, right? Uh, but is this really the case? Is this really where the future is? Or are you thinking, yeah, sustainability, kind of tugs at my heart, but at the end of the day, what am I going to do? Work in a government or an NGO? No, I'm telling you that actually it's exact opposite of that perception. The fact of the matter is, at least for the last several years and going forward, the projections are exactly in that direction. There's more new jobs being created in the US in renewables and climate change than in all of the oil and gas sector. In other words, it's just a bigger sector. So which one do you want to be in? The fast growing sector, renewables and climate change, or like the declining one, traditional oil and gas? You know, and in some ways, when you see the public debate, it's misleading. So when there's that debate about building, fighting to build a gas pipeline in the Dakotas for good jobs, it's like, where are those good jobs? There's a handful of good jobs in Canada where the gas is originating, but it has nothing to do with the U.S. If you go to like Texas, most of the new jobs are in, it's not oil and gas, it's the wind. There's a lot of wind generation jobs in Texas. That's where, actually, if you think about it from that business sense, it's where the money is. The fact that the matter is already the economics of renewables and climate change have changed. They're much cheaper, they're more robust. That's where corporations, even heartless large corporations or whatever, are going into because the money's there. Oil and gas is just hanging on for its dear life, and without massive subsidies, it's in a state of decline right now. It may not look like it, but that's kind of what's kind of propping up that sector. Are you thinking, well, where are these jobs? Is it only in science and technology? I may not be a science person. Or, okay, you could listen to my other talk on technology, or I kind of mentioned the ecosystem. And what I mean by that is, I use the analogy there that if you have an NBA team, you have 5 players, but actually you have a lot more than 5 players. You have the reserve players, the coaches, the equipment people, the building maintenance people, the finance people, the transportation, the marketing. In other words, you're talking about thousands of relatively high paying and good sector jobs, as opposed to the 5 guys who are actually on the court. In other words, it's the ecosystem where the jobs are. So when you're thinking about, for example, jobs in renewables and climate change, is it going to be with a solar company or a wind company? Could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be with any number of a widening scope of service providers. So, for example, all of those companies, other companies that interact with them, they're going to need for people in, human resources, HR, right? How about other outside people, like, for example, lawyers and accountants? Anything from equipment manufacturing, marketing, and advertising. In other words, the ecosystem is quite large, and the jobs are not necessarily only in that particular sector. No, I'm just talking about the US. Globally, the sector is booming, and there's jobs, again, all over internationally. There's opportunities to go back and forth and have a career here and there. It's it's a sunrise industry, not a sunset industry. And finally, let's look at California. So if you're saying California, you can say, yeah, I see a lot of solar companies. I see some advertisements for it, but that's just, the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. All right. How about something up in Silicon Valley? I'm actually up in San Francisco. I'm in a hotel room in San Francisco because I'm visiting Silicon Valley to talk about some of the latest hot trends out here. And what are those trends? Is it about like microchips and e-commerce and that kind? Well, sorry guys, but that's kind of old news. What's really hot in Silicon Valley right now is sustainability and software related to that. So, for example, one of the things I'm coming up here to talk to is look at do an investment analysis of some companies that are related to artificial intelligence and machine learning with respect to sustainability targeting. How hot is that sector? I just met a company with 3 guys that raised about a couple $100 million. It's crazy, you know. Those 3 guys are wicked smart, but in other words, you could tell that they're only going to be the tip of the iceberg. And again, the sector is growing outwards from it. Finally, I just want to mention that think about climate change as a sector. Climate change, not even renewable energy. Do you see a lot of it in California? You may not think so, but do you know that it's already like a $15 billion per year sector here in California? And that's still considered a very early stage market. It's much more mature in other parts of the world. Like, for example, if you go to Brazil, it's pretty established. If you go to Europe, there's trading exchanges for it. But in California, yeah, 15 billion is considered just the beginning of its growth. And if you look at different job ads, for example, one ads, look around, talking to recruiters and things, all of those companies, primarily secondary, tertiary, they're all expanding like crazy right now. So you have to ask yourself, where do you want to look for your future employment to be? With kind of a stodgy company that's in terminal decline, and then maybe you're going to get like what 1 or 2% per year salary increase, and you have to wait behind a bunch of old people, for them to retire and whatnot, and the sector's not growing, or a hot new field, for example, with renewables and climate change, where not only are there good paying jobs, but it's really a field that's growing fast. And that means the future trajectory is like this, as opposed to this. So give it a think. This is something that not only should tug at your heartstring, but it's going to be pretty good on your wallet too. Okay?